The attack came without warning. Out of the void, a Xel-Far Dominion fleet emerged over New Avalon, Earth's largest colony in the Outer Rim. The sky turned black as warships, gleaming with alien metals, rained fire upon the unsuspecting world. Orbital defenses crumbled in minutes. Cities burned. Civilians fled in terror, their screams drowned beneath the unrelenting bombardment. By the time Earth's forces arrived, the colony was gone. Over 2 billion lives, erased in a matter of hours. The Xel-Far didn't even bother to send a message. No demands, no negotiations, just extermination. They expected Earth to cower, to surrender. Instead, they ignited something they could never have imagined. Terra, United Nations War Council, 48 hours later. The war room was silent as the last transmission from New Avalon played on the holoscreens. Smoke and fire, a child's cries. Then static. Admiral Elias Voss stood at the head of the table, his cybernetic hand tightening into a fist. His face, carved by years of battle, remained unreadable, but his voice carried the weight of 1,000 wars. How many? His words were steel. Estimated casualties at 2.4 billion, sir, an officer replied, his voice barely above a whisper. A heavy silence settled over the room. The Xel-Far had wiped out entire civilizations before, but never had humanity suffered a loss like this. The weight of it hung over them like a storm cloud. President Ayaka Monroe, leader of the United Terran Federation, took a slow breath. She met Voss's gaze, her expression unreadable. "What do you propose, Admiral?" Voss exhaled, his fingers drumming against the metal table. Then he spoke the words that would change the course of galactic history. "We don't mourn. We don't negotiate. We don't retreat. We march." He tapped the console, and a battle map unfolded in the air, a detailed layout of Dominion space. It stretched across thousands of star systems. We go after them. All of them. Every warlord, every stronghold, every fleet. We don't stop. We don't slow down. We march until nothing remains of their empire but ashes. A murmur rippled through the council, but no one objected. Earth had spent centuries preparing for war. For decades, its military-industrial complex had operated at peak efficiency. The Dominion had no idea what they had just unleashed. President Monroe nodded. "Make them regret the day they ever heard our name." Across Earth's military bases, mobilization begins. The call to arms echoed across the stars. Thousands of warships, their hulls gleaming with reinforced titanium and plasma shields, powered up in dry docks. Factory lines roared to life, producing weapons and armor at a breakneck pace. Entire fleets moved within hours. Humanity's war machine had awoken. And once it started moving, it never stopped. The march had begun. The first counterattack came faster than the Xel-Far could have imagined. In less than a week, humanity had mobilized one of the largest war fleets ever assembled. Over 1,000 warships, from sleek destroyers to kilometer-long dreadnoughts, emerged from hyperspace over Vortalis 7, a heavily fortified Dominion world known for producing war beasts and cybernetic soldiers. The Xel-Far fleet, expecting a drawn-out siege, immediately moved into defensive positions. They were ready for a slow, tactical engagement. What they got was an avalanche of steel and fire. Vortalis 7 orbit, Earth's first strike. Weapons free. The order came from Admiral Elias Voss aboard the UTS Retribution, Earth's flagship. A heartbeat later, the void erupted in fire. Railgun slugs the size of cars tore through Xel-Far battleships at relativistic speeds, their shields useless against the sheer kinetic force. Swarms of missile frigates, equipped with eye-guided payloads, overwhelmed enemy point defenses, detonating entire cruisers in fiery explosions. Earth's ships did not maneuver defensively. They charged. Unlike other species who fought methodically, Earth's doctrine was one of overwhelming force and relentless momentum. On the Dominion warship Zarkal, High Commander Varish watched in horror as a single Terran battleship plowed straight through his defensive line, ramming a HFY destroyer before unleashing a broadside that tore 3 more ships apart. "They're mad," one of his officers shrieked. Varish bared his fangs. "No, not mad. Just unlike anything we've ever fought before." Then the boarding pods launched. Vortilis 7 surface. The unstoppable infantry. The orbital battle had lasted less than 2 hours. By the time the Dominion realized they were losing, it was already too late. From the burning skies, Earth's orbital drop shock battalions descended like meteors. Pods crashed into HFY fortifications, unleashing cybernetically enhanced super soldiers clad in adaptive power armor. They hit the ground running. A HFY commander roared for his forces to rally, only for a railgun round to rip through his skull. Behind him, hundreds of Dominion warriors opened fire. Their plasma bolts scorched the battlefield, but Earth's soldiers advanced with terrifying precision. Their armor, enhanced with self-repairing nanotech, absorbed most of the damage. Their weapons, electromagnetic rifles capable of punching through tank armor, cut down enemy ranks like wheat before a scythe. And they never stopped moving. The HFY War Beast, a 3-meter-tall cybernetic monstrosity, charged at a human squad, its claws tearing through steel. One soldier stepped forward, dropped to one knee, and fired a single shot. A tungsten round, moving at Mach 5, ripped through the beast's skull, spraying the battlefield with biomechanical fluids. The fall of Vortilis 7. Within 6 hours, the Dominion garrison was in full retreat. Within 12 hours, Earth's flag was raised over the capital. Vortilis 7 had fallen. The HFY had expected a war of attrition. Instead, they had just learned the first lesson of fighting humans. Earth's armies never stop. The fall of Vortilis 7 sent shockwaves across the Dominion. Humanity had not just won a battle, they had annihilated an entire defensive sector in record time. The HFY warlords, long accustomed to slower, methodical wars, could not comprehend what they were facing. By the time they did understand, it was too late. Earth's war machine had already moved to the next target. Chion 4, the last stand of the 12th Dominion Legion. Chion 4, a fortress world deep in Dominion space, became the next flashpoint. Unlike Vortilis 7, the Dominion was prepared this time. Over 3 million HFY warriors, supported by war beasts, automated drone swarms, and fortified plasma towers, stood ready. The planet's entire defense grid had been optimized, designed to grind the humans to a halt. High Commander Vekroth watched the incoming fleet from his command post, flanked by his most elite warriors. His snarl exposed serrated fangs. Let them come. Then the sky opened. The battle begins. It started with orbital bombardment. Earth's dreadnoughts, positioned above Chion 4, unleashed kinetic rods the size of skyscrapers, each moving at terminal velocity. The first impact erased a Dominion artillery line. A second cratered a war beast breeding facility. The third cracked open an underground bunker like an eggshell. Still, the HFY stood their ground. Then, the drop pods came. Thousands of orbital drop shock battalions streaked through the atmosphere, slamming into the battlefield with the force of meteor strikes. The moment the pod doors blew open, human soldiers stormed out with terrifying speed. The HFY opened fire, unleashing a wall of plasma. The humans charged straight through it. Their armor, ablative composite plating reinforced with nanofibers, absorbed the first few hits. The rest of the rounds either missed or failed to slow them down. A single Terran battalion, outnumbered 10-1, carved through the enemy lines like wildfire. One soldier, his armor scorched and his rifle glowing hot, tackled a HFY warlord to the ground and drove a combat blade through its skull. A sniper, perched on a ruined tower, fired 4 shots in rapid succession, each one a perfect kill. A mechanized walker, standing over 6 meters tall, stormed through the battlefield. its chain guns ripping apart Dominion heavy infantry. The XL-FAR fought desperately. They lost anyway. 72 hours of hell. For 3 straight days, Earth's forces fought without rest. They rotated in shifts, their AI-driven logistics ensuring constant reinforcements and ammunition. The Dominion forces, on the other hand, had no replacements. On the morning of the 3rd day, the last XL-FAR warlord fell to his knees, wounded, surrounded by human soldiers. A Terran officer, his armor stained with the dust of war, stepped forward. The warlord looked up at him, his 4 eyes burning with hate. "Why won't you stop?" The officer's reply was simple. "Because we never do." By nightfall, Cheyenne 4 belonged to Earth. The offensive was unbreakable. The march continued. The Dominion was reeling. In less than a month, Earth's armies had steamrolled through 4 major strongholds, reducing XL-FAR defensive lines to nothing more than scattered pockets of resistance. Entire fleets were wiped from existence before they could even mount a proper counteroffensive. The Dominion's warlords, once prideful conquerors, now scrambled to consolidate what remained of their empire. But the humans didn't give them time to recover. Earth's armies were not here to fight a conventional war. They were here to end one. Fortress World Calvora, the last line of defense. Calvora was the Dominion's largest remaining military stronghold, its surface covered in towering fortresses, plasma defense grids, and a garrison of over 20 million XL-FAR troops. High Overlord Vekharan, supreme commander of the Dominion's remaining forces, stood atop the central war tower, watching the human fleet arrive. "They should not be here yet," his strategist hissed, mandibles clicking in frustration. "They should still be bogged down in the outer sectors." Vekharan growled. "Humans do not fight like the others. They do not stop. They do not slow down. They do not fear losses." The holomap flickered to life, showing the vast Terran fleet amassing just outside the system. Thousands of warships, each armed with enough firepower to reduce planets to rubble, loomed in the darkness. Vekharan's claws curled into fists. "Then we make them bleed." The assault begins. Earth's fleet did not wait. The moment their ships entered range, they opened fire. Railgun slugs, each the size of a bus, tore through Dominion orbital stations like they were made of paper. Fusion warheads detonated across the battlefield, shredding XL-FAR vessels before they could even return fire. Calvora's planetary defense grid, a vast array of plasma batteries and anti-orbital cannons, came to life, unleashing a storm of energy bolts toward Earth's fleet. But the Terrans had already planned for this. "Deploy Aegis units," came the order. Within seconds, Earth's defensive warships moved into formation, projecting overlapping energy shields that absorbed the plasma bombardment. The entire first volley of Calvora's defenses did nothing. And then, the humans retaliated. From the depths of the fleet, a new class of Terran warship emerged, the Siege Titan. A monstrosity of steel and fire, the Titan-class dreadnought unleashed its primary weapon, a planet-cracking rail cannon. With a single shot, the cannon's payload, a multi-stage tungsten uranium slug traveling at near-light speed, tore through Calvora's shield generators, turning an entire defensive sector into molten slag. The XL-FAR watched in horror as their impenetrable fortress world crumbled before their eyes. Then the drop pods came. Earth's armies touched down. The invasion of Calvora had begun. For the XL-FAR, it was no longer a battle. It was annihilation, and humanity would not stop marching. The sky was on fire. From the moment Earth's fleet shattered Calvora's defenses, the final battle for the Dominion had begun. Thousands of drop pods and landing craft cut through the atmosphere like flaming meteors, carrying with them the most feared force in the galaxy, human soldiers. The XL-FAR had prepared for a siege, expecting months of drawn-out warfare. Instead, they got a storm. Earth's armies hit the ground running. Ground Zero. The invasion begins. Across the war-torn surface, shock battalions deployed with terrifying efficiency. Mechanized walkers, their railguns spinning with lethal intent, stomped across the battlefields, mowing down entire platoons of Dominion warriors. A squad of Terran shock troopers breached a HFY fortress, moving like a well-oiled machine. Plasma fire rained down on them, but they didn't stop. One soldier, his armor scorched but unbroken, vaulted over a barricade and fired a point-blank shot into a Dominion officer's chest. Another detonated a breaching charge, blasting open a reinforced stronghold. The HFY fought with savage desperation, but they had already lost the moment the first Terran boots hit the ground. The humans didn't fight for territory. They fought to erase the Dominion from history. The last stand of High Overlord Vekharan. From his war tower, Vekharan watched his world burn. Plasma batteries, once symbols of Dominion supremacy, now lay in ruins. His warriors, bred for conquest, fell in droves before the relentless Terran assault. But still, he would not surrender. "We will fight to the last," he roared to his commanders. His elite Voidclaw Guard, towering cybernetic warriors, prepared their final defense within the palace citadel. If humanity wanted Calvora, they would pay in blood. And then the walls shook. A Terran breaching drop pod, the size of a main battle tank, slammed into the citadel's gates. Its doors exploded outward, and from within stepped the Titan Guard, Earth's most elite super soldiers, clad in multi-layered adaptive armor, their weapons glowing with the heat of battle. They stormed the throne room. Vekharan charged. His claws, reinforced with plasma fields, slashed at the nearest Titan Guard. But the human sidestepped, caught his arm mid-strike, and drove a monomolecular blade through his gut. The High Overlord fell to his knees. His eyes burned with hate as he looked up at the Terran soldier towering over him. "You were never meant to win." The soldier raised his rifle. "We didn't just come to win. We came to finish this. One shot, one dead empire." The war ends. The march continues. By nightfall, Calvora belonged to Earth. The HFY Dominion, once rulers of the stars, was no more. But Earth's armies did not rest. There were still remnants to crush, worlds to reclaim, enemies to hunt. The war machine rolled on, because humanity never stops marching. The Dominion was dead. Its throne world lay in ruins, its leaders executed, its fleets turned to drifting wreckage. Across the galaxy, news of Earth's final victory spread like wildfire. Some species celebrated. Others watched in horror. The war should have ended. But Earth's armies never stopped marching. The remnants. Though the Dominion had fallen, pockets of HFY resistance still remained. Scattered warlords, rogue generals, and surviving Dominion fleets had retreated to the lawless sectors of space, hoping to regroup. Humanity did not allow them to recover. The war had moved beyond battlefields. Now it was a hunt. Deep space, Operation Cleansing Fire. A lone HFY fleet, one of the last, drifted through the shattered remains of an asteroid belt. Their warships were running low on fuel. Their supplies were dwindling. They had fled, hoping to escape the storm. But Earth's armies were already waiting. Hidden among the asteroids, cloaked in electromagnetic dampeners, Terran hunter-killer squadrons had been tracking them for weeks. The trap was already set. At 0 hour, every human warship revealed itself at once. Fire at will. A wall of kinetic slugs and AI-guided missiles slammed into the HFY fleet before they could even react. Ships exploded instantly, their hulls shredded by railgun fire. Desperate to fight back, the last Dominion warlord, General Kreshvok, ordered his forces to charge. They never made it. Humanity had perfected orbital warfare. Their ships maneuvered with machine-like precision, each shot precisely calculated to intercept escape routes. Within minutes, the last Dominion fleet was reduced to burning debris. There would be no survivors. Ground assault. The last bastion. On the jungle world of Velrath, one of the last HFY strongholds remained. Thousands of fleeing Dominion troops had gathered here, their warlords swearing vengeance against Earth. They built fortifications. They prepared for a final stand. And then the sky turned black. From above, Earth's warships unleashed hell. Railgun barrages, orbital artillery, and hypersonic bunker-buster missiles rained down, tearing through fortresses like paper. When the bombardment ceased, the humans landed. Unlike previous invasions, this was not war. It was extermination. Terran shock troops, armed with advanced motion-tracking AI, thermal-seeking drones, and cybernetic augmentation, swept through the jungles like shadows. A Xelfar sniper, hidden in the trees, aimed at a human officer. He never got the chance to fire. A combat drone, scanning for biosignatures, dropped from the sky and detonated a micro-explosive at his location. One by one, the Xelfar fell. Within a single day, Velrath's defenses collapsed. The last Dominion warlord, wounded and surrounded, activated his distress beacon, sending out a desperate transmission. "We surrender. We." A single Terran bullet ended the transmission. The war wasn't over until every last enemy was gone. The hunt never ends. Earth's leaders had made a decision. This wasn't just about winning. This was about ensuring that no threat like the Dominion would ever rise again. Humanity would not allow another war. So the hunt continued, and Earth's armies never stopped marching. The war was over, but the killing wasn't. Across the galaxy, the remnants of the Dominion had been hunted down and erased. The few Xelfar who tried to flee beyond the galactic rim disappeared into the void, never to be seen again. Some surrendered. None were spared. Humanity was thorough, brutal, unforgiving. They weren't just conquering. They were cleansing. Ghost fleets of the Xelfar, the last known Dominion fleet, a battered collection of warships stripped of their former power, drifted through an uncharted system on the edge of the known galaxy. Commander Rethvar, once a high-ranking admiral of the Dominion, looked at his crew. Tired, wounded, defeated, they had fled to the farthest reaches of space, hoping that humanity would finally stop hunting them. He had been wrong. His sensors flickered. For a brief moment, he thought it was a malfunction, until his officers confirmed it. "They're here." The void itself seemed to move, shadows shifting between the stars. Terran warships, coated in advanced stealth plating, decloaked one by one, forming an impenetrable wall of steel and fire. The Xelfar crew panicked. Some scrambled for the weapons console. Others fell to their knees, already accepting the inevitable. Rethvar simply closed his eyes. He didn't hear the order to fire. He only felt the silence. Then, in a single coordinated strike, the last Dominion fleet was erased from existence. The final purge. Even after the fleets were gone, Earth was not satisfied. They sent out hunter teams, small squads of elite Terran operatives, augmented and enhanced beyond natural limits. These ghost soldiers infiltrated old Dominion colonies, scouring the ruins for any survivors. There were no trials, no negotiations. Just a bullet, a blade, or a bomb. A Xelfar warlord, hidden on a barren moon, was awakened in the dead of night. The shadows moved. Then, a black-armored figure stepped forward. No words were exchanged. No mercy was given. A single shot rang out. The last of the Xelfar warlords was dead. The message to the galaxy. The extermination of the Dominion sent shockwaves across the cosmos. For centuries, the Xelfar had ruled with an iron fist. Now, they were nothing but ash. The other empires, once skeptical of Earth's rise, watched in silent terror. Humanity had proven something that could never be ignored. They weren't just another species clawing for survival. They were the apex predators of the galaxy. And they had a message for anyone who dared to challenge them next. We do not forgive, we do not forget, and we never stop marching. Every fleet, every colony, Every last remnant of the HFY had been hunted to extinction. Their homeworlds, once the centers of power, were now lifeless husks, silent tombs floating in the void. Humanity had not just won. They had erased their enemy. And yet, Earth's war machine did not stop. A galaxy in fear. The destruction of the Dominion sent shockwaves across the stars. On every world, from the merchant hubs of the Arkan Trade Confederacy to the war-driven warlords of the Varathari clans, there was only one topic of discussion: humanity. They had done the unthinkable. The HFY had ruled for centuries, crushing resistance wherever it appeared. Every species had assumed that the humans would eventually submit or accept a treaty like all others before them. Instead, Earth had unleashed a storm of blood and fire. And now, the galaxy held its breath. Would humanity stop now that their greatest enemy was dead? Or had they merely begun? The War Council of Earth. Deep beneath the surface of Fortress Earth, within the War Council chambers, humanity's greatest leaders gathered. Generals, admirals, strategists, the architects of a war that had not just defeated an empire, but erased it. The question now was simple. Do we stop? Silence. Then, Fleet Marshal Dorian Voss, the man who had orchestrated the Dominion's fall, spoke. No. His voice was cold. Absolute. We do not stop. We do not rest. We do not wait for the next enemy to rise. The galaxy will always produce another threat, another empire that seeks to dominate us. He looked around the chamber. So we will march. Forever. Until there is no one left who dares to challenge us. No objections came. The decision was made. The march continues. The first targets were chosen immediately. Not enemies. Not yet. But potential threats. Empires that had once sided with the Dominion, even if only through trade. Nations that had hesitated when Earth first asked for aid. The Arkan Trade Confederacy was the first. They had remained neutral, profiting from both sides during the war. Now, they would pay the price. Earth's fleets descended upon their capital world without warning. They didn't ask for negotiations. They didn't make demands. They simply attacked. Cities fell in hours. Their defensive fleets, built for commerce protection rather than war, were annihilated. By the end of the week, the Confederacy no longer existed. A war without end. The galaxy now understood the terrible truth. Humanity had not just won a war. They had discovered their true purpose: to march forward, to crush all opposition, to never stop. And as the next world fell to their advance, one final message was broadcast to the galaxy. Earth's armies never rest, and we are coming.